But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Just requesting a taste with you, well, you've gone sour. You want the world plus everything, but it won't work an hour. And now your questions are kept creeping, and you go and buy her flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy. I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. Just shut your mouth.
Good evening, welcome to the Three Amigos on NUFC Matters, the perfect way to kickstart your Sam Fender weekend. And it is good evening to Steve, to George, to Mitch, and to Stu, and to you out there. An hour and a half of all the usual stuff on the Amigos. As always, your show. Get your questions in. If there's any burning questions that you want to ask the lads, we will do our bit. And thanks to John, who said, afternoon, everyone. Excellent interviews with Mitch, Al Walid and Steve Hasty. We will have one to come with George, which will be tomorrow. Stu will be doing one at some point. Keith Patterson's going to be on the show next week, as well as Ben Jacobs. So plenty of one-on-ones coming up over the course of the next couple of weeks. Few people asking if we can do them on a bit more of a regular basis, and the lads are all keen to do it. So yeah, we will do that. At some point, we'll fit some more in. But yeah, welcome along. Plenty to talk about, as always, even though it's, the summer months, and Newcastle United, of course, not playing now until the friendly start in July. Questions coming in all the time, and one in from David Cook early doors. Lots of stuff about the FAB this week on Twitter. I'm sure most of you will have seen it. David Cook wanted to go down the tickets route, which I know will cheer a few people up in the chat. He says, "Hi, Steve. I know tickets is a taboo subject, but did you see the minutes from the latest FAB meeting about ticket touts and bots? They claim to have dealt with many. However, last season was no easier for me and many others. 2 ballots, 1 resale, 1 gifted by a season ticket holder. It's worth seeking the lads' views on the club report. Maybe on the Amigos or the professionals, maybe. Thank you in advance, David." Well, Steve, it's another match-up, so I've decided to do it on the Amigos and the professionals together this week. Yeah, I mean, what have you made of all of this? Because there's been a lot of interaction, a lot of Newcastle United fans have had their say as well about what they feel has been going right and going wrong with FAB. What's your thoughts on David's question?
I mean, David's question was obviously targeting the availability of tickets and the system that the club says to put in to do away with ticket touting. But if ticket touting's not existing, and it depends, I suppose, on the club's interpretation of ticket touting. Let's not forget. I mean, are you touting a ticket if you're passing it to a friend or a relative? That would be my first sort of point. Because obviously what's happening is you're being forced to return the ticket to the club, and then the club's selling it on, either selling the proportion on allegedly on a higher rate, or as part of some sort of corporate package where you get a seat, but you also can go to a local restaurant or and have some sort of corporatized hospitality, and then bussed in or walked up to the ground. I know of at least 2 locations where they do that. So what do they mean by ticket touting? For me, it all wraps up into a much bigger picture, a much bigger sort of issue, and that's the way that fans are treated, full stop. the way that fans get discredited, the way that fans get exploited. It's interesting today that the FSA are having their annual general meeting, and one of the things that they're talking about, and I said they're going to campaign vociferously against, which was brought up by Man City fans, is facial recognition going into grounds actually at a turnstile, because it's possible that with facial recognition linked to the ticket, that people could be stopped because they're not the person whose ticket it is. Like the FSA, it was agreed at the FSA meeting this afternoon that they would campaign against that. It's Man City who are putting it into place. Man City, for some reason, seem to have this thing about their fans at the moment. I don't know why. Maybe the fans are going to be the 116th charge. Who knows? But obviously, on the sarcastic side, don't take that as a positive. But no, I mean, I don't know why we've got into this situation where fans are the ones who get pilloried. Fans, loyal fans who have held season tickets for many years, and yet having a ticket seems to be a bone of contention with clubs, and I find it disappointing. I don't see why the club feels or any club should feel as though they have the need to control who you can pass a ticket on to. I find that bearing in mind they've already been paid for the ticket, and the fact that in this day and age, tickets are expensive enough without having to hand the ticket back over, go through the rigmarole, and bearing in mind ticket offices aren't even open now, are they? They're only open on match days and one for a half an hour a week or something ridiculous like that. But I just feel as though it's the thin end of the wedge on victimising supporters, tarring supporters with something that perhaps doesn't exist, and it creates ill feeling. I know that there's a demand at Newcastle United, and I know the club would argue, well, we're just trying to have control over who comes in, and we're trying to make it fair because we've got people who are waiting. But most people have a family member who are waiting. They have a friend who's waiting, and that's, they feel it a lot easier and a lot safer to pass the ticket on that way. So it's not good. I think it's smacks of Big Brother and not the TV show.
Yeah, very, very well put, Steve. It's an interesting topic, George. We've spoke about it before. Dave obviously wanted to know what your thoughts were on this. What was your thoughts on this? That and the facial recognition is interesting as well, because I think Newcastle's probably one of those like at the forefront of that, but Wembley's got it, of course. Facial recognition's coming, whether we like it or not.
I hate to tell you, they're using facial recognition when they're looking at fans in the crowd.
Yeah.
Already, so that's not new. Anything like this particular topic really gets me upset as a fan. I mean, you all know I've been a super backer of this takeover from day one and before, this is the one area where the thing hasn't worked, and sadly, it's connected to fans, and some of the things that are happening because of them, not because of the fans. For example, since they started all this stupid stuff of putting false tickets into away fans occasionally, making them go to the ticket office where they are to get that real ticket and walk all the way back and go in. For the first time this season, there have been several away matches, where there's actually been empty seats at our end. That's never happened. If it was left to the fans organise it themselves, giving it their uncles, their brothers, their mates, their pals, seats were always full. Never any hint of anything derogatory. And then, of course, we now have give it back the club and they'll sue it and do it. And suddenly they're finding on their way onto very expensive ticket sites at about twice or thrice the real face value. That can't be right. And I don't want to get, well, I am going to get it because I'm going to say it. This bugbear of of putting false tickets into the away fans and making them go and get a real ticket is called entrapment, and it's illegal. I wish I had the money. I would gladly take the club on that one. Not on just on my behalf, but on behalf of anybody if I had the cash, because it's a winner. Entrapment is illegal and has been since the 1980s. It was a method the police used to catch ladies of the night, and it was declared illegal, and that's exactly what they're doing. And it's just another step to making football France almost a criminal society, which started thanks to Mrs. Thatcher some time ago. But there always any excuse they can find to stick a label on football fans, which is not a nice label, is ultimately criminalising football fans, and it's just a downward spiral. And then the FAB, well, if you invent something, which they did, that clearly is an invention and it's populated by people who were favoured, it's never going to have the faith of the fans. It's never going to have the faith of the people who are really involved. It'll always be them, us. And most people will say, well, yeah, the FAB gets that because they're who they are, not because of what they do. And they've done nothing. I've read nothing in the minutes I see that makes me think that they're doing a job which I can value, because they don't. They don't. And then there's my old friend Ballot. How dare they suggest fans are doing all these things when they're running something that's called a ballot, which isn't a ballot. It's not even a bloody raffle. I'd love to see the magistrate's certificate that gives them permission to hold that ballot. I'd love to see the bits of paper where it gives you the total number of tickets in the ballot and the total number of tickets that goes out the ballot and who got those tickets, because I don't think those papers would be public. And that, again, is not legal. It's not right. And yet it's all down to fans. It's they're looking to control. That's what it's about. You said, Steve, Big Brother. It is a bit of Big Brother, but not a nice bit of Big Brother. And attaching it to the way to justifying it is to try to declare that fans are doing things that are illegal or not right, all the rest of it. So, no, I seen it and I was quite depressed about it. I've got to say, that's not the Newcastle United I support. It's just people looking for excuses from my point of view. When the fans organised it themselves, asked their tickets to their brothers, their dads, their grandpas, their nephews, etc., it seemed to work all right. Yet as soon as they get their sticky hands on it, we're getting empty seats, tickets on tout sites. No, I'll stop because I'll go on forever with it. But it's just not nice, Steve, and it's not right in my opinion.
Yeah, okay. Strong words from George. Mitch, what's your feelings on David's question? What's your views?
As I'm sure you know, I could probably go for half an hour on this alone myself, with me beers well and truly ground. Touching on facial recognition, I live in a society with facial recognition everywhere. Carry an Emirates ID, that's linked to my finger, linked to my bank account, linked to everything, and I appreciate the benefits of that in this society. However, is there a place for it at football grounds at the moment? Not unless you're up to something. You want to catch people out. I'd use it for certain means, in my opinion. I don't see the place for it in football grounds. Not in the UK anyway. With regards to this whole concept of touting, well, it's all very well and good saying that you've stopped X, Y, and Z, but why is it when people log in to go into the ticketing site, to come on within 2 minutes of it opening, and that's sort of 27,000 in the queue? Now, either we have a very, very healthy balance when it comes to memberships, and that will be reflected in the account somewhere. And even if you take into account people logging on multiple devices, those numbers don't make sense. There has to be something else at play here. Why are there so many tickets appearing on ticketing sites freely? And then when you try and trace them, you can't trace them back. They come back to a fake name and a fake number, yet the ticket still gets you into the ground. That's the kind of thing that should be being addressed, and it just doesn't seem to be. The FAB are too busy writing things to make sure that we still get freebies by the looks of it. To me, that's the only thing I've seen out of it. And that's a shame. That makes me ask two questions. What have you already had? What's lying on the table? And why are you covering your arses? Instead of actually doing something positive for the fan base. And there should be bridges being built here, there and everywhere to mobilise the fan base and unite the fan base. And it seems to be ever more there's division. My personal feeling is it's this ongoing gentrification of the game. You just have to look at what's been recently said by people in local politics about Sunderland getting promoted, and the Derby days might promote tourism to the Derby days. Tell you what, if you turn up as a tourist at either the Derby games and you're wearing a half and half scarf, see how both sets of fans react to that. You might do something special and unite Newcastle and Sunderland fans on something. Well done. That shows an absolute lack of grasp of understanding of the game, what goes on in the region, and what exists between the two sets of fans. And that's, again, a disgrace. And I've said before and here, evermore I feel not welcome when I come to St James's Park, because I believe I'm part of that generation that are quite happy to move on. The gatekeepers, the ticket holders, the point holders. Let's bear in mind the word touting at away games comes from, again, from somebody who is a current member of the FAB, who said it as a trust member at a ticketing workshop, and it was taken as gospel that there was a touting problem with the away fans, and there never has been. But we always did look after ourselves, and we always did look after each other. The London Mags were fantastic at filling grounds all over London when we were dire and you couldn't pay people to come and watch Newcastle United. Yeah, away ends were full. And why? Because there was people down there who were desperate to see that team. They would come in, they would take tickets. Most of us here have benefited from being out in town on a Friday night with no intention of going to the game on Saturday and coming back on Sunday morning wearing the same bloody clothes because somebody said, I've got a ticket spare, do you want to come? Aye, okay, in the back of a furniture van, and off you go. God knows how many times I've turned up at my dad's house on a Sunday morning and he's like, oh, did you enjoy the game, did you? I thought you weren't going, you know? And so it really is, unfortunately, we seem to be in the crosshairs for some reason, perceived as the bad guys. And that alienation and division is something that's being played on at the moment. Will it lead to the end of season tickets? Well, that's what Man City are trying to do. What are they calling their tickets now? Gold card something or other? And they've got to attend 16 games, otherwise they have it taken off them. That's just the start. And Man City are a club who got so much right when their takeover happened. And now they seem to be at loggerheads with their fans, and even their FAB is talking, going to legal action about certain things. That's a FAB with integrity. That's a FAB who are doing things for the fans. And that's what we should be seeing. And it frustrates the life out of me as somebody who has only ever interacted with fans with one thing in mind, the betterment of everything and everybody, to make the whole match-going experience better for all of it. And they just seem to be happy to pass us by. It still isn't lost on me, as somebody who's involved in now an official supporters club, that they still haven't sent an olive branch out to Darren Curry and the lads at NUFC to talk to them about certain things, and nor will they ever. Because again, the faces don't fit, and the attitude is that's what they don't want and don't want in the ground. And no wonder after the best season I've seen in my lifetime, I'm sitting here seeing shit like this, and it's not right.
Yeah. I mean, look, tickets do bore the death of people in the chat. I can see one or two people already getting a bit irate, but unfortunately, you know, this is sometimes an issue that has to be discussed, and people ask us the question. We do try to answer the questions, and this is one of the questions we can give an opinion on. Maybe it's not a solution, but an opinion. Stu, thoughts on this? Can you add any more to what the lads have said?
I just think Mitch should just have a big swig of his vodka and iron brew and chill for a bit.
Yeah.
But I'll say now what I normally say to Mrs. P. Don't worry, I'll be quick. Mr. Hastie's last comment was the one I was going to use. It's Big Brother. The UK has more CCTV per square mile than any other country in the world. And even today, I got a e-government message from the Bahrain government saying that it's now illegal as of today for a vendor not to have a method of electronic payment. You know what I mean? So the guys that have used it is to say in their pursuit of a cashless society. And that freaks me out. Mitch will vouch with you guys will vouch when I come home. I always pay cash. I like to have cash. I don't want other people knowing what I'm doing with my money. It's my money. I'll do with it what I want. I don't need to be questioned by someone in a bank. I don't need to be questioned.
Your wallet usually has more denominations than some branches of bloody Travelex.
It does. So, but normally about 5 or 6 currencies due to the travelling I'm doing. But the idea is this thing. Where's the gain? I don't see it. This facial recognition. All right, as George said, you get CCTV in the ground. That should be for the only purpose if there is an illegal activity that person can be found. But we all know it's not. And for me, maybe I'm too old school and not technology advanced, but I don't see it. If, for example, you, Steve, you've got a season ticket and you can't go, you've paid for that season ticket already. So the ticket's paid for. My only way of looking at it, my simple reasoning is that the club are looking for reasons, not just ours, there's other clubs as well, looking for reasons to take the season ticket off people because they can get more money by selling it individually, whether it's through, I won't say a ballot, through the fans' membership or through other channels, shall we say, where all of a sudden these tickets become available at 4, 5, 6 times the asking price. And that's the bit that worries me. That it's not what's being done, it's why it's being done. And we all know the answer, but they'll never admit it.
Yeah.
Steve, can I quickly come back on? I understand why people get bored with this.
Yeah.
But if we don't discuss it as NUFC matters, who does? Where will it get an airing? And it's important it has an airing because it affects all, and it's devious. It really touches on things which we shouldn't, as Neil said, we shouldn't be talking about now. We should be still swinging our scarves above our heads. And we're not. We're talking about what's going on behind the scenes, what's not going on behind the scenes, who's fiddling what and who's doing this, that, the other. And if we can't discuss it as NUFC matters, who will? Where will people get the question asked? And I think it's the least that we can do with the platform we've got is actually to air these things. And I'm sorry if it's boring, but it's very concerning.
Yeah,
George, you're right, because the one thing that Mitch said there about you go out on a Friday night, and I've done it several times. Well, I have done it several times. And you're out around the town and all this, I've got a spare ticket. Where is the game? London. All right. And we didn't have mobile phones in those days. So you'd end up just getting on the Clipper from the Gallagher, down into Victoria, into Smithfield Market, get yourself onto the match after several servings of alcohol, go at the match, then back round that way, get the Clipper back, and you're back in Newcastle for early morning. You get home, get a earful of the missus, because you can only ring, you know what I mean? I would ring my mother and say, when she comes round, or if she's looking for us, this is where I am, because I'd rang home and she wasn't there, whatever. And then you'd get up and you'd go off and play football on Sunday morning, and you go to the bar again in the afternoon. And that was par for the course. But they don't want that type of fan. What they want is people who's going to pay more money. And as Mitch mentioned there about the half and half scarves, and people can snigger and laugh, but it's a reality. That's the sort of thing that would happen. And it's money talks now, and that's the sad bit. And I know we've discussed it previously, but for me, I'm glad that we won this cup when we did, because had we went another 2 or 3 seasons, it would have been tarnished. So George is absolutely right. Everything that we've discussed, people will be talking about in the bot and the chats amongst their own friends, and that's all we do on here. We talk amongst friends, and people will talk about it, but if it doesn't affect you, it'll annoy you. But when it does affect you, it becomes a problem. And that's the same with most things in life.
Steve, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Steve.
Yeah, I would just add that what we're actually doing is we're pulling another soapbox out from under the TV here, because that soapbox is actually the Americanization of the game. The import of American owners, American ideas, American commercialization, American control. This is all the sort of things that they enjoy. It's all the sort of things that they revel in. It's all to do with money. It's all to do with control over the revenue. And with the best will in the world, the genie's out the bottle as far as American owners concerned, but it's going to be up to the likes of the regulator, if we've got any faith in them. And unfortunately, the big bulk of it will come back down on the FSA to control this Americanization of the game, and to do everything we can as supporters to stop so many of the things that happen on the other side of the pond from coming in and drifting into our game as well. Before you know it, we'll have games of 4 halves, 4 quarters. We'll have adverts on big screens during the match. We'll have videos. We'll have all sorts. It's you can see half times being stretched to 20 and 25 minutes shortly. Bearing in mind it used to be 10. There'll be all sorts of things that these guys will want to try and establish in the next 5 to 10 years in the game. And when you look at Infantino and you look at the way that he's kowtowing to America for this FIFA World Cup, for the FIFA Club Championships, etc., and all the things that they're bringing in there, you just know that it's gonna end up happening in the game here. The only plus side I think we have at the moment is that UEFA have a bit of a to against FIFA, but how long that'll last, if the money runs out, or if there's more money offered, who knows? I'd hate to think that we are relying on either the Premier League or UEFA to do something on the positive side for fans.
Jimmy, he says, I'm waiting on the invitation to do my Ask Jimmy and Mark Bayer show. Jimmy, you'll be more than welcome. I don't even think the watershed would save us from having Mary on, I'm afraid. Okay, we'll lighten the mood slightly. Thank you, Jimmy, for lightening it as well with a bit of tweet of the week. Okay, great stuff coming in from everybody as usual. Jimmy Wilson, I'll probably need your stuff in a couple of weeks' time. I'm still getting through the backlog, but we'll start with this. Devon and Cornwall have cancelled that planned joint 60s and 70s retro music festival after a row over whether to put the jam or cream on first.
Oh dear.
And it is only when a mosquito lands, lads, on your testicles that you realise there is always a way to solve problems without using violence. Very good Chinese proverb, that. The best friendships are the ones built on a solid foundation of alcohol, sarcasm, shenanigans, and the dislike of the same people. Welcome to the 3 Amigos. And farewell, Doris, wife, mother, and magician's assistant. Signs, got a few of these again. Car wash, we give the best hand job in town. Anniversary of Jaws, here's an alternative film, Jawas, from Star Wars. And Star Wars Celebration collecting track. Now, this is brilliant. Thank you for sending this in, Anthony. So as luck would have it, our flight back to the US was on ANA, All Nippon Airways, and we got the Star Wars branded plane. Even crazier is that I was told by a flight attendant that there was only one of these. We had a conversation with her about why we're in Japan and how ironic it was where we were on this plane. I also have to say that the service and the staff on this aircraft was the best I've ever experienced. Incredibly efficient, friendly staff. The food was honestly fantastic and the whole experience was great. After we landed in DC and got off the plane, we were heading down the hall to customs And that same flight attendant ran after us to give us these boarding certificates. What a great company. Here's the boarding certificates, lads. Brilliant.
Wow.
And there's the plane. Very good, that. Excellent. Love it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sending that in. A couple of Star Trek ones. Never had this. 63 Earths can fit inside Uranus. 64 if you relax, says Captain Kirk. And I'm always so tired when April the 1st rolls around. It's like I just finished a 31-day march. And I took my wife to the Caribbean last week. Jamaica. No, she wanted to go.
I want to go, dear me.
It's an old one, but it's a good one. When you wish your parents understood English when they named you. And hey, does it hurt to get a tattoo? Depends on the area. I'm from Oklahoma. And if you are sleeping, send me your dreams. If you are laughing, send me your smile. If you are eating, send me a bite. If you are drinking, send me a sip. If you are crying, send me your tears. I love you. I'm on the toilet. Please advise. And hey, baby, what you up to? Nothing much, babe. I'm really tired, so I'm about to go to sleep. How about you? I'm in the club, standing behind you.
Oops.
Yeah.
And Fabia says, I need a man who never looked at other women. And the reply from Wally, he tagged her in the National Society of the Blind and Partially Sighted. And I got a new stick of deodorant today. The instruction said, remove cap and push up bottom. I can barely walk, but when I fart, the room smells lovely. But
Yeah.
Another one of those celebrity crossovers, Becky Chan. And when you've only been at your job for 2 weeks and already have a reputation. And all we hear is Radio Gaga. Very good. Like that one. And last one for this week. Consider this a warning. Sorry, wrong person. Who's the right person and who the hell is the right? Who's the right person and who the hell is the right person? That is fantastic. That. Thank you for sending that. And you know, I like the old pitch. We're talking about the pencils at Eldon Square the other week. There's the cafe lads in Eldon Square.
The Images Cafe.
Eldon Square.
Fantastic. So thank you for sending that in after our conversation. Great stuff. As always, keep them coming in. We'll get quite a few on Twitter. And Jimmy Wilson, I'll give you the nod when I need a few more of you. Thanks. Okay, John comes in with a question. How would the Amigos feel if the rumoured Canadian with the Real Madrid connections ends up as our new CEO? I've heard one or two slightly disturbing things about his time at MSG. He also goes on to say it's vital that everyone in positions of influence behind the scenes backs Eddie Howe. Eddie's got very little to prove and needs support to drive us forward, but that's just my view. What do you think? So 2 questions in one, really, Steve. What about this potential CEO that's been linked quite heavily with Newcastle?
Yeah, one of a number of names that have been bandied around. I think Mitch might have some additional information. I'm not too sure, but it's something that we've thrown around because I'm sure he's like a lot of these guys. Their reputation goes before them. Spent a lot of time, obviously, in Canada. I don't think he had that much time at Real Madrid, to be perfectly honest. But I think his connections were with Canadian sport in general, as well as the Madison Square Garden group. Now, the Madison Square Garden group are an interesting one because they've had a bit of a reputation because they have a bit of a crazy owner who uses facial recognition to throw people out. That's purely coincidental, this, by the way. Uses facial recognition to throw people out that he doesn't like. Usually lawyers, by the way. I know that there's been a number of lawyers situations in the past where and there's one particular lawyer who raised some interesting points and I think he got into dispute with, and she turned up at Madison Square Garden only to find out that her and her family was stopped because he decided to ban her. Now that's not the guy that we're talking about, but it's the owner of the Madison Square Garden group. So hey, maybe if he does end up coming into Newcastle, his experience of of how you operate something like facial recognition might be a positive for us rather than a negative, and maybe he'll go down the path of saying no, you don't want that, you don't know what problems you'll get into. But on a serious side, I think his main sporting endeavours have been with the likes of the group that own the Toronto Maple Leafs and such like. Now we're talking there about one of the biggest sporting franchises in the world, you know, and that shouldn't be forgotten. So if you've got that sort of experience working with a big sporting franchise, then that's got to be a positive. I don't think Paul Mitchell had the same sort of background. Yes, he was at Tottenham. Yes, he was at Southampton. Yes, he was at Monaco. But does that compare to a huge, big American sports franchise? I very much doubt it in terms of what you're going through. I think there's probably, I think we're probably still a few weeks away from anyone coming in, and in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up having to wait until almost the start of the season before a name actually comes to fruition and a decision's made and an appointment. But you know what? That probably means it'll happen on Monday.
Okay, George, thoughts on the potential incoming of that new chief executive? There's been other names bandied around, but just John's question.
I mean, the thing that set me off once I'd heard you lads talking about it was to have a dig, and the guy's stuff that he did in Canada is largely very positive as far as I can see, and as Steve rightly says, as part of one of the biggest sporting groups in the world, not just in Canada or North America, so you know, from that point of view, he comes with a great deal of experience, but it's experience over a long period of time. And I go back to one of my issues with Paul Mitchell. You've read out all the things he's done, but he's never done one of them more than 3 years. And that would have rung bells for me before I appointed somebody like that, if into a position like that. But never mind, that's just me. So, although I'm talking about sporting director rather than CEO, I know, but that's the kind of thing you need to look at. Well, this guy's certainly done a lot with that group in Canada. And then I looked at some of the horrific things that I heard coming out of his connections with Madison Square Garden. But Steve's laid most of that to rest, because most of the things I could dig up were more to do with what the owner was doing, not what he was doing. So you know, it's right. And I don't know what he did at Real Madrid and how long he was at Real Madrid, but the very fact that he attracts their attention suggests that he might be somebody to talk to, if nothing else. So I'm you know, a little bit iffy about him because of the Madison Square connection, but apart from that, he sounds like a guy that's done a lot over a period of time and would bring a great deal of experience. So I have nothing more to add to that, really.
Okay, Mitch?
He's very well known to a mutual friend of ours, who I haven't had a chance to have a long conversation about with, but suffice to say, the conversation I have had was very positive. And indeed, he's had very positive relationships with the Gagliardi family in their sporting interests, which, interestingly, that was the Canadian family that was interested in buying Newcastle United at one time.
United, yeah.
And so you, Dad, of course, know now who I'm referring to in terms of who I've been
speaking
speaking
to. I do indeed, yeah.
He's currently out of Dubai at the moment and in Australia on a project with Matthews Southwest, so I haven't had a long conversation with him. He says he's going to catch up with us when he gets back. So I'll probably get more information then. But to hear that kind of positive feedback from somebody well positioned in the world of Canadian sports is interesting. His time at Real Madrid, he seemed to be very good and central to some of the deals that allowed them to circumvent some of the financial situations that they got themselves into. Things like the peppercorn rent with the training ground, having sold it to the local council and things like that. That seemed to be something that he was part of. And therefore, if we're looking for somebody who can find ways to make financial rules work in our favour, if we're looking with somebody who's got a relationship, a working relationship, bearing in mind the American ownership that's creeping into the game, who's used to dealing with American owners and used to dealing with the world of American sports, and if he's been dealing well with the mentalist that owns Madison Square Garden, I think that I can see a lot of positives to it. And I think there's we've got to be smart. And like I say, there's no real friends in football. There's only temporary alliances and ways to make things work on almost single issues. But if he's smart enough to do that, he could be a very interesting appointment in terms of how the English game's going at the moment. With the additional American ownership coming into the Premier League, whisper it quietly, it wouldn't surprise me to see a club not far from us sold to American owners at some stage in the not too distant future. Genuinely wouldn't surprise me at all. And therefore, as that sort of leaves us as an island, having somebody who's able to build bridges makes sense, really, to me anyway.
Okay, Stu.
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah. Must have been a slight delay.
Right. I was more looking for the bit on the tweet of the week because I seen something today. It was on one of Frank Shepard's things. I scrolled through, so forgive me for not remembering who wrote this. But as Mitch was talking about our neighbours, they were referred to as Sundoon land, and I thought that was very clever. Sundoon land. But regarding the American thing, I think it's clear that there's a movement towards it, and I don't think it's for the better. But I don't think we're in a position of if you can't beat them, join them. And we are, as Mitch described us as an island, but just because everyone says you're wrong doesn't mean you are wrong. You know, and we could be the ones that are pushed through and say, right, this is how we're going to do it. Now, if push comes to shove, look who's sponsoring the FIFA World Club Cup. You know, so ultimately the Americans seem to get their own way more often than not because money talks. Well, all their money combined, we have more than. If it comes to that. But we can't sit here and preach about xenophobia against Saudi Arabia and then we do the same thing against the American owners. For me, the blame lies at the door of the Premier League, who have done nothing for me over the last 10 years, but prove that they're yes men, and that's all they are. Anything for an easy life. Okay, we don't want to rock your boat because you're a big club. So if you want that, yeah, it's okay. It's only since the status quo has been challenged has it become an issue. But I am concerned about the influence of American owners, not the fact that there's American owners, but the influence. And I know there was jokes from Mr. H there saying about 4 quarters instead of 2 halves. But, you know, although it was said tongue-in-cheek, there's a serious message there. These sort of things can be influenced if it still goes to a vote. So why aren't the people pushing, or why is it not being said by the mainstream media about the dangers of too many owners from one particular nation? Because I'm sure, very, very sure, if the Middle East started buying up clubs, there would be a kickback. But it doesn't seem to be the case with the American owners. Now, regarding the Canadian guy who was at Real Madrid, he helped with the stadium, etc. If it is to be him, I think that could just be putting a face out there. He understands what it is to announce and then develop and then deliver a first-class stadium, a world-class stadium, and that can only be good. But in fear of repeating myself, and I know the guys who are watching this, most people will watch myself and Mitch normally on a Sunday, we have a better or a greater understanding of how business is done at this part of the world, and they do want the best. And I think Mitch said it in his little, not his little, he's fantastic one-on-one with you during the week. You know, if you're not good enough, we've given you a chance. Masalama, as they say. And I've said that, whoever they put in position, they'll give enough rope for them to hang themselves. And if you're not delivering what you're meant to be delivering, then they'll find someone who can. Because I don't get frustrated. I have a wry smile when I'm reading social media. Why don't they just do this? Why don't they just buy this person? Why don't they just break this rule? Why don't they just do this? You know, all comes down to why don't you just throw a shitload of money at Newcastle United? And people need to take a step back and remember that bought us as a business that's going to generate money in the future, a long-term business plan. And they're not foolish with the money. That's why they've got it. And they will make the right decisions. And if Darren Neal's through his illness, which is really, really sad, has to take a step back, they will get the right person in charge. And if Paul Mitchell wasn't what they thought he was, and it doesn't matter who recommended him, they'll get someone in who's better. But it doesn't have to be instantaneous. And this, for me, is a systematic society today. They want everything now. And I know I used the analogy in the previous show, maybe even a year ago, but when we were younger getting our first homes, the main thing for us was to have a sofa and have a bed and have a portable in the corner. But now people want ready-made showrooms to move into. You know, and it's the way social media has changed things, whether it's TikTok or Snapchat or whatever. It's I want it now. I want instant success right away, and it's not going to happen. And they're not going to break the rules. They can, and they would win, but we don't want that. And if they think this guy who's helps Real Madrid, he's helped the Canadian franchise, is the right person for us, then fine. Because to be honest, Steve, I don't want to be dismissive, but I really don't care who's in the boardroom. It's who's on the pitch that's important to me. And if Newcastle United are successful on the pitch, they can have 6 Macums on the board for all I care, as long as we're winning on the pitch, because that's why we support them. And sometimes we can get bogged down by politics too much, and they will get the best. They will. I promise you, they'll get who they believe is the best available. And if they're not available and they really want them, they'll make them available. So, sorry, that's my summarising. If it's dampening what other people have said, but I'm on here to give my opinion. That's how I feel. I want just a successful Newcastle United on the pitch.
I think what you've got to remember as well is that the way that these appointments that take place, normally it's not the club. It's usually the club employs an agency to go out, a recruitment agency, a top level recruitment agency that specialises in high level appointments, and they go out and they troll around and they identify people on your behalf based on you know the parameters that you've given, and then all these names suddenly appear. It's undoubtedly that, you know, the people whose names are appearing are people who are interested in the job, but that's as far as it goes, because it'll not be the football club who's putting out, oh, we're interviewing so and so, or we're interested in him. It's usually the other way around, and if the individual wants the job, then he'll have a PR camp that are going out there and putting his name out because he's already been approached by someone else to say that he's interested in the first place. And that's the way. It's not like this guy has seen an advert in the Chronicle, you know, or anything like that and thought, oh, hey, I'll apply for that. It doesn't work like that when you get into these sort of areas, do they? You know,
might have seen it on LinkedIn.
Well, you might have. That's true.
It was last week's stuff. Okay, good stuff. Halfway through the show, time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach. all excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, a key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. Okay, welcome back to the matchup, Three Amigos and the Professionals. Just a reminder that your final issue, if you are a subscriber of the NUFC Matters fanzine, will be on its way and it'll be coming to you in July, probably back end of June, end of July. All the articles are now in, so you've got a great fanzine to look forward to. It'll be going to the printer sometime this week and we will be posting that out. And don't forget, we are, again, doing this for charity. We're doing it for Age UK. And it'll be Age UK North Tyneside Dementia charity that we are doing it for. And from our perspective, we're going to do 200 copies again. So it'll be 200 subscriptions. We're hoping to raise another $4,000 for the charity. It'll be NUFC Matters fanzine. It'll be 4 issues. And it should have been £27.50. We've knocked it to £25. That's the 4 issues and postage. There is international delivery on there as well, which is obviously worked out with your postage on there. And all you need to do is go to nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk to put your subscription in. Once we hit 200, we will not be taking any more orders, so don't miss out. I've emailed probably about a third of the subscribers, and I've noticed most of you have started subscribing again. It'd be great to hand over $4,000 again to a charity. And again, it's non-for-profit. We all do it for free, and to be able to give Age UK North Tyneside that money would be fantastic. We've already handed over just over £1,000 to them in the space of 6.5 weeks since we started doing the t-shirts and stuff from Johnny Allen. And Johnny Allen's donated an Isaac picture, which I believe Steve Hasty is either going to get or has got. We will be auctioning that off on Twitter at some point in the next couple of weeks. But get your subscriptions in for the fanzine. I will stick the link in the chat for you. Yeah, thanks for supporting us as always. Okay, time for The Day I Met. Met, where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. And this one was from Barry Westlake. He says, with the legend himself, I'm on Keegan's right and my brother is on the other side. What a great photo that is from Benwell. Those days, what wonderful days. And Kevin, a young snip of a lad there in that photo. If you've got a photo that you want to share on the channel, all you need to do is send us it at this email address, nufcmatters1892 at gmail.com. And if you're interested in maybe even submit an article for next year's fanzine, maybe drop us a letter or an email on there as well. We're always looking for new subscribers, but that is the email address. Send over the Day I Met photos. Yes, go on, Mitch.
Like NUFC Matters, it's everybody's platform and it's there if you want to use it.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Okay, I'll play this music because I know people love it. Chipper says, is that a drawing of Chris Wood on the fancy? No, it's a big Dan Byrne. That's what Rob Maltman, the designer, said. He had a bit of fun with his AI, I think. And yeah, he says he wanted to do a big Dan Byrne. Steve Middleman says he's missing the last 2 issues. Steve, just email us and let us know which issues, mate, and we'll stick them in with your final issue and make sure you get them. I don't know why. Have you sent us the correct address, maybe, but stick it in an email, nufcmatters1892@gmail.com, and we will try and sort that out. Okay, Our Lead and Steve's podcasts and Mitch's podcast were great. We've had a lot of positive feedback on that. We did touch on at the top of the show, but thank you for that. Barry Hogan says, lads, if we signed Alanga, Trafford and João Pedro, would you be happy with the window? Personally, I feel we could do better. NUFC Pro says, evening, lads. 2 questions in one. How many signings do you think we need versus how many do you think we will get? And, you know, Yvonne as well, we're supposedly looking at Pedro and Sancho who've got issues and attitude. Do you think Eddie would take them? Although Gordon had questions initially, but he did come for us. I've chucked those 3 together, and I can, for me, really, you know, it is the silly season, Steve, with transfers. You know, we don't know whether we are connected to Alanga, Pedro, Sancho, you know, Sancho, whoever. We've got no idea really who Newcastle United are trading. I just put a simple post out the other day on my social media saying, you know, nobody knows who Newcastle United are going for apart from Newcastle United. But I did like the question that NUFC Pro posted. So, you know, take the question how you want it and take those questions how you want it. Evening, lads, 2 questions in one, really. How many signings do you think we need versus how many do you think we will get? Because you can give an answer to that.
I think we need 4 or 5 top-class signings who are good enough to go straight into the first team. And with that comes a strengthening of the squad. And we talked about, you know, there's only 25 players that are named and all this rubbish. It's the depth of quality in the squad. You can have as many players as you like, but if the quality's not there, and I think we barely scrape the surface in terms of the quality needed. I'm not saying those players that we've got are not top-class footballers. What I'm saying is to step up to the next level, we've got to have proven, established winners that can bring a mentality as well as a physicality and skill set that we need to take our football club up to the next level. So I think 4 top-class players, outfield players, is what we need. And if Eddie thinks we need a goalkeeper as well, then so be it. Personally, I would get rid of all 5 goalkeepers and start from scratch, but that's me.
Not just you, Steve.
Sorry, Mitch?
Not just you, Steve.
No,
Is it not just me? That's all right. Then I was beginning to think I was in a minority of one. But I think this is where we lose out. This is where we forget that it's the quality. You can have as many signings as you like, but if you're not bringing on winners, you're just bringing on people who are coming because somebody's decided at the club they're currently at that they're worth a lot more than you know. Let's face it, is their true value. I mean, when you hear about some of the players, 60 and 70 and 80 million pound being mentioned, and you think, dear me, where would Shearer be if he was still around? You know, and it just beggars belief. I just hope we're a little bit more sensible. It does appear, however, that there is a Saudi tax floating around. I think Eddie made mention of it a couple of weeks ago before he went away on holiday, presume he's going on holiday. I hope he's gone on holiday and he's resting up, especially.
Yeah, he said he was. He just said he wasn't going to tell anybody where.
He needs it, doesn't he? He needs to put his feet up. And he deserves it as well. But yeah, there's definitely a Saudi tax. And there are other clubs paying ridiculous amounts of money for young players, but that's let's use Brighton as an example. That's what they do. They're paying 30 odd million for a Greek because they think he might be worth 90 million in 2 years' time. Well, if João Pedro's anything to go by, they're probably on the right track. If we're a player that they paid 20 odd million for, that they're now desperately getting 60 or demanding 64, and apparently people are willing to pay. So I suppose that's where the market's going. But crazy money. But 4 quality signings, and those signings should be good enough to be in our team at the start of the season as the first names on the team sheet, and then after that, the fight comes with the rest of the squad for them to prove that they're good enough to take those places. I think it's as much to do with competition in your squad as it is just being a number and just being told, "Oh, I'm going to give you a rest for a couple of weeks, lads," or a particular game. I think it's more than that. I want to see that fight. I want to see players desperately playing for that. So that's my number, Steve.
All right, George, feelings on the transfers? How many do you think we'll get in? How many do you think we need in?
I think we need, like Steve, we need at least 4, and it would be lovely if we got 5. But 4 for me is a minimum. And Steve's right that we discovered a long time ago that we had we could find a good 11 that could beat anybody on the day. What we also discovered was that when one of those 11 had to go off, or 2 of those 11 had to go off and be substituted, we were struggling for people off the substitute bench who could actually affect the game, not just come on and do a job, actually affect the game. That's what we need, and that's what we missed. Had we had those on the bench, we might have been cheering more than just the Carabao Cup win, in my opinion. But that just says a lot more about Eddie Howe than anything else, how he managed the resources he had. So I would like to see at least 4, and possibly 5. But Steve's absolutely right. 4 ready to go into the first team, or have the ability of coming off the bench and affecting the game. I do not this season want to see a Newcastle bench with 3 goalkeepers on it. That would make my skin crawl, and would actually be a failure of the whole system if we got stuck in that mire again. And I think Steve's absolutely right. With what's gone on the last few years with the goalkeeping situation, perhaps it is time to start again. And as it happens, the one consistent rumour or chatter about goalkeepers has been young Trafford from Burnley. I mean, there was one period we actually got the rumour that he'd actually signed a pre-season contract agreement or something like that. Well, clearly hasn't, but that's the one name that's been consistent in the people that they're talking about. But then again, going back to what we said at the beginning, only Newcastle United know that. Nobody else. But 4 at least, in my opinion. It would be nice to see 5. And if nothing else, it's a reward for Eddie Howe for the way he's kept where we are with the squad he's got, how he's managed it. Let's give him something he can manage even better. And the net result for us might be even better. So 4, but realistically, hand on heart, I think we'll be lucky if we get 3.
Okay, Mitch.
I think our efforts in the transfer window very much depend on player trading as a whole. I think the outgoings may dictate what necessarily needs to come in, because I think really, if we're going to be serious about a league challenge, go for the cups again, and have a Champions League campaign, we need 5 signings, in my opinion. We need at least 4 ready to go, plus 1 who could step up if needed with other young players that we have. But players need to go out too. And that means we could need as many as 7, in my opinion. And I don't think we'll do that kind of level of trading. I don't think we're set up to do that level of trading. The goalkeeping situation frustrates the living daylights out of me. Let's not forget our most expensive goalkeeper in the club's history has played a one half of League Cup football for us in the past season. And that's not the lad's fault. He's in because of the stupid PSR merry-go-round we were involved in this time last year. That all needs clarification, and by clarification, I agree with Steve, that means a clear out. And whatever that frees up. It wouldn't surprise me to see somebody leave that might upset people, but it mightn't necessarily be to the club that everybody's talking about. So I think that's something I'll wait to see with interest. For me, we've got to be clever when it comes to player trading. Very clever. And look for the value and look for people who are ready to go within our system as soon as possible and get the deals done as soon as possible. I didn't expect to do anything in this early sort of silly window for the World Club Championship, just simply because the way that our accounting periods work and the way we can juggle things. So I also think the fact that Eddie and the scouting team are in charge of what they want now will have a positive effect on the player trading, because there's no additional level to go through. However, that also brings another thing on Eddie's shoulders. It's all on you, kid. There's no way out then. So I think it's a double-edged sword. Everybody has to remember, but it's one I think that he'd be prepared to take on, no problem. And I don't have many worries about that.
Okay, Sophie, thanks for your message. Says Red Bill are buying the Newcastle Falcons to save them. I'm not seeing that. Must have just been announced. Stu, same question to you, and your message as well. I was talking to the lads, just saying, is there one player that you think we might get done? So go on, over to you.
I'll answer John Spencer's question first regarding the house looking bereft of Christmas decorations. I've got 76 days left before they get put up. And I don't want to go down the sponsorships will dictate our incomings, but it's quite clear that incomings have to happen. If not even just to stay as we are, or to move forward, it's to stay as we are, because we'll go backwards if we don't make not just signings, but important signings. But for me, Eddie Howe is like a Canadian Mountie, isn't he? He always gets his man. And when we're talking about the goalkeeper situation, it's quite clear he's set his stall out to get Trafford. Now, I know we don't want to speculate, and I'll be very careful not to speculate, but because if not, I'll be saying, come on, guys, smash the legs. We're not that type of channel, but I want to be able to say it makes business sense to tempt Burnley, because if what you read is true, they have PSR issues. So we could do how we were done by Nottingham Forest last summer and say, right, we'll take Trafford off you for a, shall we say, inflated price, but you're taking Vlachodimos where we're not losing money. So you could see a deal for Trafford at 35 and then either Pope or Vlachodimos going the other way in two separate transfers, which is what we had to do to get ourselves out of that position. Burnley need to do it to have disposable income to spend. To answer your last question, if I had to choose one of who I think we will get out of all the people that would be linked, and I'm sure Barry's got the number well over 100 now, and that's probably just using 2 or 3 different news outlets, I would say that we'll sign Marquet. And I think he was willing to come last year, and I think he's been sold the idea. And the fact that we've pursued him for this long, everyone likes to be wanted. And sometimes money isn't important when you're earning enough. And I've said this in my line of work. If I was offered a 50% pay rise to go back to Dubai, I'd stay in Bahrain. You know, it's about quality life and being happy in what you're doing, and having the room to grow and be wanted and feel merited, etc. And I think we appeal to Guy, and by all accounts, all the work that's been done on him behind the scenes, he fits our model perfectly. So to answer your last question first, I would say Mark Gay would be the one. Not saying the other ones wouldn't be, but now to answer your first question last, I'm with Steve Hasty. I think we need at least 4, but I'm also in agreement with Mitch. Really, we need 7, but I think we'll get 4 players who are capable of starting the first team, and then the rest will depend on outgoings. If we're getting, because it's already saying we've got the best midfield in the league, but it just takes an injury or a suspension, and then all of a sudden we're very short. But imagine getting 2 injuries or 2 suspensions, and irrespective of how good they are, we don't have players that can play at full capacity for what could well be a 60-game season, and that's not including their international games. So I think we don't need a goalkeeper. If we had to sacrifice one position, I would say I would keep Pope, but there's going to be a centre back coming in. For sure, there'll be a right winger coming in. There'll be some form of cover at centre forward, and I think if we're getting rid of a midfielder, we need another midfielder in, at least one more midfielder, because you can't run that amount of games on 4 or 5 real good players. You'll need at least 6 so they can change, and you need a decent replacement. So we've all talked about it. The games are highlighted at the end of the season, and I think it was Steve that said it before. Or no, actually, it was in Mitch's article for the fanzine. So there's a little snippet here. The 4 teams that we lost those points to, where we only got 3 from 24, which was Everton and Bournemouth and Fulham and Brighton. We need someone who can unlock the doors. So we need a centre midfielder that is an attacking midfielder. That is what people now call a number 10. For me, it's a Peter Beardsley. That's what we need, a Peter Beardsley type player who we can play in those games. And there isn't going to be a statutory starting 11 as we've had since, well, the last 2 or 3 years. If everyone's fit, everyone knows the starting 11. What you need is horses for courses, which is one of my favourite sayings of last season. And if we're playing a team like Fulham at home, we'll go more attack-minded. And we don't need to have 4, possibly 6 defensive-minded players. We need to have players who can change the game. But if we are playing the so-called bigger teams, we've got players who know how to stifle them, as they're proven. So we need to have that flexibility. So for me, I think we need at least 6. At least 6, but I think we'll get 4 top quality signings.
Okay. We're just talking, Steve. There, we're talking about the takeover of the Falcons by Red Bull. Yeah. I think one thing we should be looking and keeping an eye on is how that impacts the women's team, because obviously they play at the ground, and obviously Monster Energy are one of our main sponsors as well. So be interesting to see how that plays out in the next few months.
Yeah, one to keep an eye on. Thank you, Sophie, for giving us the update on that. Just want to thank everybody. As always, we'd like to share the figures with you. 132 new subscribers this month, 153,000 total views and 2.1 million minutes watched on NUFC Matters, and 155 uploads from me and the gang over the course of the last month. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. Never take that support for granted. And thank you to anyone who is a new subscriber. And we've got 900 watching tonight. There's 600 of you watching on Twitter. If you've never been on to NUFC Matters before, just search for it in YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and you can join us. We do 7 shows a week, 15 minutes left. And I've got one quick question, which I'm going to ask the lads now, so it gives them time to think about it, because we're going to be bringing Robin to do his album review. This is the question, lads, for you to have an answer to after we've listened to Rob. In a season of unbridled glory, I have to ask, what was your lowest point of the season, lads? So give that some thought. Whilst Rob comes on and pays tribute to probably one of the most iconic characters in music that we've seen for a long time. And thank you to somebody on Twitter who sent me this. There he is in an iconic Adidas double at his keyboard. But we're going to bring in Rob now, who's going to pay tribute to the late, great Brian Wilson. Good evening, Rob. How are you?
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm very well. Hope you're all good.
Good
Hi,
stuff,
Rob.
mate. And with it being Brian Wilson, I can guess what album it's going to be, but please tell everybody.
Yeah, it was Stephen Kennedy sort of dropped this in for me to do. So, yeah, Pet Sounds, 1966. I do remember it. I'm obviously aware of the Pet Shop Boys, Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. Yeah, obviously losing Brian Wilson. So I've just picked a handful of songs. I'll deep dive more in when we go back on the top of the tin. So it opens with Wouldn't It Be Nice? This has been used for a lot of adverts. So we're talking last week with Cadbury's, Sky TV adverts. This is really, really uplifting. Unbelievable mind Brian did have musically, harmonically, just absolute masterpiece. To me, simply layers and layers of art. I'm not going to deep dive because it's just pretty much perfect. I've picked You Still Believe in Me. It's quite eerie, quite haunting, but sophisticated as well. A bit of a medieval feel in this one. Again, I just suggest that people listen to the words to this, go and read them. It's called You Still Believe in Me. It's just absolutely powerful. It's got quite like a church hymn feel to it. Quite a lot of the tracks in this did for me. I've picked I'm Waiting for the Day. It's a tiger drum, timpani, sort of opener, bit recorder, tambourine. And it just sort of drops into the verse. Simply, it's a deep love ballad, like verses, and then it kicks in. So it's more of like a big tribal build up. Really, really good. Brilliant direction in this. What a composer he was. Then you've got track 4. I knew this song, but I didn't know what it was called. It's called Sloop John B. I'm just going to simply leave this with 2 lines that Brian wrote in it. I feel so broke up. I want to go home. I'm just going to leave that there and then rest in peace, Brian. We've got track 5 on this. It's God Only Knows. Goosebumps, when I was listening to this. It's just one of those emotional songs that just takes you back. When we start listening to it, it's really soothing. It's beautiful. Again, the depth of the changes and this going into the verses. It's just unbelievable. It's powerful. And I do believe that music matures with yourself going forward in the journey. It's just, I do remember it growing up as a kid listening to this. It's on the radio, 70s or whatever, but you don't pay attention to it. Now I'm older, you get a great newfound respect. We got Pet Sounds. This reminded me of primary school, and the music teacher would say, get that big box, tip it upside down, choose an instrument, and you all just made a noise. This just reminded me of that, this instrumental, sort of very sort of metallic feel about it. It's got a cold feel, but it's okay. It's just the Beach Boys. It's not anything else. It's just the Beach Boys. I've got Here Today. This sounds more modern, especially the vocal part. It's more poppy. It's less psychedelic. It's just, again, absolutely sublime. Here Today, this one was called. Again, I'm just going to finish up on track 8. It's called I Know There's an Answer. It's got like a church organ feel to this. Nice tambourine, lovely mid-tempo, tiger, timpani drums again. I'm just going to leave it at that because there's so much. I could deep dive. I could speak about it all day, all night. But what I can say is it's like every song I listened to in this album made me smile. The cover, it was Pet Sounds. It was San Diego Zoo, 1966. Seemingly there was a bit tongue-in-cheek about it, Pet Sounds, because petting, but not animals. Because a lot of the songs about relationships are a bit tongue-in-cheek. But again, they've been picked down the psychedelic pop, prog pop, art rock. To me, it's the Beach Boys. And again, I was listening to this as well, and it's trying to question why music's so important to us. We don't need it. We can't wear it. We can't eat it. But it's like a journey that takes us on, but it's so powerful. So you I think you need it in life to get you through a lot of times. It just makes you appreciate a lot of things, a lot of people's outlooks, lyrics, art, poetry. It's just outstanding. So yeah, thank you, Stephen Kennedy. I really, really enjoyed listening to this album, and absolute top draw production on it. What a composer and orchestrator Brian Wilson was.
Great stuff, Rob. As always, we had a message in from Tim Cairns. He says, "Evening, Steve. I'm hoping you're well. I used to follow this band in the early 80s. He was asking about Sid, whether Sid knew them, but you, with Sid being on his vacation, might be good for you, Rob, to see if you can find out anything about this. All the music was original. They had a big following, including Brian Johnson and Eddie Neal. They performed on the Tube on a couple of occasions. Local lads with a squeeze vibe. They were called Dance Class." Rob, so there's your mission for next week. See whether you can find anything out about Dance Class.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great stuff. I knew you would. All right, mate. Thanks very much, mate. Take care. See you next week, pal.
Thank you, folks. Bye-bye.
Yes, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you.
Great stuff. Nice little tribute to Brian Wilson there. Okay, I set the lads a question before. Steve, we'll come to you first. What was your lowest point last season?
Bournemouth at home.
Yeah.
I thought it came during a period where we weren't playing very well, and then we just capitulated. It was like, it didn't make sense. We hadn't been playing decent football. We got beat a couple of weeks later off Man City as well, 4-0. But for me, that Bournemouth capitulation really, really set us back, and it really got me. It really did give me the jitters because having gone through a couple of earlier defeats, and it's one of those things that really annoys me when after a match, when you go to the bar and you're standing with your pals, and whenever it happens, whenever it's a Bournemouth, a Fulham, a so-called lesser team that beats you, I always walk in, and I've done it since the days of Allardyce. It's like you'll never win out if you kind of get results against these, and there I was in the sort of early part of the season or mid part of the season, and I'm coming into the bar afterwards and going, that was shocking. You can forget about us winning the league, or you can forget about us getting into the Champions League with performances like that. How does a team put in a performance like that at home in front of 52,000? Absolute shambles of a game. And also you start to look at the bench, and you start to look at Eddie, and you start to look at Jason Tyndall and Jonesy, and you're thinking, what went wrong? Why couldn't you stop it? Why didn't you change it? We're at home, And it's little things like that bugs me, and that for me that was a shocking result. Despite the fact that people will try and tell you that Bournemouth played really, really well, they didn't. We were just shocking, and they took advantage. If it had been the other way around, I would have been absolutely delighted. If it'd been away from home and we'd beat them 4-1. But I'm a Newcastle fan, so for me that was shocking.
Okay, George, you were agreeing with Steve. Did you pick the same game?
Yeah, I maybe because Steve and I were so depressed after the game, it's left a mark on both of us. It was the manner of the defeat that was more important to me than just the defeat. The getting beat was bad enough, but my favourite saying is, well, we'll give them a shellacking. Well, Bournemouth came to St James's Park and gave us a shellacking, and that really, really wasn't in the script for me. And we didn't do anything about it. He's absolutely right. I mean, we were tearing our hair out, wondering why on earth we weren't changing this and weren't doing that, and Bournemouth just kept running over the steamroller and over it. And it wasn't because they were a big bully side; they were just quick, darty little footballers who were making fools of our players, and that always hurts. That always hurts for me. I can take a defeat, but that really was a horrible defeat with well and truly, the shellacking was on us, not on the visitors. So that was the low point, because after that, you start to question everything. After that is how will we recover? What we're going to do about it, and the fact that we did so superbly is got to be credit to the manager and the staff. But at that time, that day of that defeat was almost season over for me. That's how bad it was. I could see the greedy little dog going home in tears almost. It was so bad.
Mitch, are you making it a hat trick? Like
Before then, for me, because I think the Bournemouth result was actually out of the blue. Yeah, we hadn't necessarily been playing well, but we had got results before then. I think we'd gone sort of like 8 on the bounce. But it was the run of results before that had me more concerned. So I think it was like we lost to Palace at home and didn't have a shot on target in the second half and looked absolutely clueless. Then we drew away at Palace, I think, where again I think our only shot was Gooey's own goal.
Yeah.
And they equalised in the last minute. Then we rattled. We shook ourselves out of it to get a good result against Liverpool at home. But then after that, I think it was Brentford away, and we looked equally as clueless at Brentford away. Mm-hmm. And even to the point where Bruno come out and made a very sort of probably too honest comment about what's going on and we need to work out what's happening. That's when I had questions, because we had that run of games where we really did look absolutely clueless at times, particularly the West Ham at home. That was probably our worst performance of the season overall for me. So that was when I think there was rightly questions being asked about, well, what's going on and how do we fix this? Then we went on a run where the results came. Maybe the football wasn't as where it should have been, but we were getting the results. And then Bournemouth happened after that. And suddenly it was back down the snake after climbing the ladder. And I think that's why the Bournemouth one hurt the way that my dad and Steve said. But for me, the more concerning time was that point of Brentford away, when on the back of a run of a few games where we probably only really played well for 45 minutes of 5 games on the bounce. And that was awful. And we didn't look like it was going to be fixed.
Okay. Stu, finally.
See, what we should have been asking is what was the best performances. But if we're on the negative side of when you ask the question, I know. What a great show it was. And when you asked the 2 games immediately, and I would have bet Mitch would have picked one of them, but he didn't. Although he did allude to it earlier on about the Everton game, because for me, that was, right, everything you've done this season, go and deliver, guys, and they didn't. But for me, the lowest point, and I get the Bournemouth, the 5-1, but we just won 9 games in a row. We're going to get beat sometime, and I understand the manner of the defeat makes it hard to stomach, but when you've won 9 games in a row, you can't take that. For me, the one game that was a standout where I felt that was embarrassing. And it's not something you can say of an Eddie Howe's team that often, or less often, as he's been in the role with us. He has now, was the West Ham at home. And every man and his dog had us down for a 3-4, 5-0 win. And we stumbled through the first half. And in the second half, we were just devoid of ideas against a team that had, I think they come to us with 5 defeats out of 6 in the draw. The manager was on his way out. The players weren't playing for him. And we had just started to get some semblance of form. And those 3 points at that time would have put us, I think, 6th, and we ended up staying like 12th or something like that. I might be wrong with the numbers there. But the manner of that performance, where I think from 20 minutes to go, there was an air of acceptance from the players and the supporters. This is not our day. And if we have aspirations to be where we want to be, we have to stop. This is not our day, and make it happen rather than wait for things to happen. And it was West Ham were there for the slagging that George likes to use, and we should have. Had we won 4 or 5-0 that day, I don't think. Yeah, but I think had we won 4 or 5-0 that day, no one would have been surprised. but everyone, including West Ham fans, was surprised how meekly we surrendered and how they managed to turn us over with not that much effort. All they did is hold us back, and we, as I said just before there, we were devoid of ideas on how to break down a team that was really bereft of confidence. And for me, it was that West Ham game. So that was the first thing that come in my head when you asked the question, Steve. Which game was sticking the most? And it was that one.
Steve, can I throw a question to the
quickly, Steve, because I've got to get away.
Yeah, just to the audience. If we moved and got rid of 7 players out the squad and we brought 4 top class players, do you think it would benefit Eddie Howe? Because, and the reason I'm asking is, will it help Eddie to be more ruthless? Having had a squad for 3 seasons almost together, will we be more ruthless with a fundamental change of a squad with numbers and allow Eddie to be more ruthless as a manager and make changes perhaps at half-time when, as Stewie's pointed out, we were in situations where it hasn't been like that before?
Good question. We'll leave you on that. Get the cardboard cut out, Steve. Just leave it playing. Good idea, Jules.
Nice to find out, won't it?
It would be. It'd probably make more sense and talk a lot and be a better singer, Jules, to get the cardboard cut out. That's it. 90 minutes are up. A great show. Thanks everybody in the chat. Back in the morning at 8:30 with the final Freezer crowd for this season. And then Monday night, 8 o'clock at the moment. It might be slightly earlier, but we'll be doing a live show with our good friends Keith Patterson. Keith Patterson will be on Monday night, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. Okay, George, Steve, Mitch, Stu, thanks very much. We'll see you guys next week. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Cheers,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks.